Business news up next, and for that, Stephen Carroll joins me from our business desk. Hello there.
Hi,
we are starting with the latest picture of the global economy from the OECD.
The Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development has cut its growth forecast for the global economy, but only slightly. It's now expecting growth of 5.6% this year and 4.5% next year. That says, broadly speaking, economies are bouncing back from the lockdowns of 2020. The forecast for the Eurozone is broadly along the same lines, while France is expected to see a stronger bounce back after last year's severe recession. In its report, the OECD also identifies some big risks the global economy is facing. One is the uneven recovery from the pandemic and the disparity in vaccination rates between richer and poorer countries. The other is inflation. It's expecting the increase in consumer prices to peak early next year at around 5%. It says the rises are being driven by higher energy costs, but also supply shortages and increased costs of transport. It's expecting inflation to fall to around 3% in OECD countries by 2023, although the Eurozone is expected to see things stabilising closer to 2%.
Inflation also a top concern in the United States. What's the Federal Reserve there doing to try to combat it?
The head of America's central bank is warning of an increased risk that higher inflation will last for longer. Jerome Powell says the Federal Reserve is prepared to speed up the process of ending stimulus to the global economy to combat rising prices. Consumer price inflation in the US hit 6.2% in October, the highest in 30 years. The latest figures for the Eurozone also showed price rises in November at their highest level since 1997. Belgium's inflation rate over 7%, 6% in Germany. France coming in at 3.4%. That's below the average for the euro area, but still the fastest pace of price rises in over a decade.
Next, Stephen, you're looking at the latest travel restrictions concerning this new Omicron variant of the coronavirus and how that's impacting business.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, travel restrictions, of course, a huge issue for the industry. Japan's government now asking airlines to stop taking new bookings for incoming flights from today. That's in addition to a travel ban on people who are living in 10 southern African states. Travel companies have seen their shares tumble in recent days as governments around the world suspended flights and imposed travel bans. Air travellers to the United States are also facing tougher testing rules. They'll now need to show a negative test that's done within 1 day of their arrival. That's down from the 72 hours that was there before.
Next, moving over to Turkey, where the central bank is trying to take steps to prop up its currency. What's going on?
That's after the lira hit a record low against the dollar on Tuesday. The central bank saying it had intervened in the market in response to what it called unhealthy price developments. This signals the resumption of a controversial policy which saw the bank burn through billions of dollars of its foreign currency reserves in the past 2 years. The lira has been hammered in recent weeks as President Erdogan pushed a policy of interest rate cuts. That's meant a sharp rise in consumer prices, as our correspondents in Turkey now report.
It's market day in Edirne in northwestern Turkey. Like elsewhere in the country, buyers complain they have less and less to spend.
Our only income is our pension. May God help us. Salaries and pensions are not going up, but prices are getting higher for everything. Cheese, meat, everything has become much too expensive.
For the last 10 years, Recep has been driving up from Istanbul every week to sell towels. This geophysicist by training also has to make ends meet.
These days, I'm embarrassed to give my prices, like 100 lira for a towel. The middle class is becoming the lower class. A small minority continues to support the government. Everyone else is hungry.
5 years ago, the minimum wage in Turkey was higher than in nearby Hungary, Croatia, or the Czech Republic. Since then, with the fall of the lira, it has dropped below every European Union country. The GDP per capita was more than 11,000 euros in 2013, but sank to barely 7,500 in 2020, even as other indicators like growth and exports remain healthy for now. In this textile factory, Yunus is worried for the future.
It's difficult to find raw materials. Everything is getting harder to find and it's more expensive.
Ham maddede yurt
Everything
dışına
that comes
geliyormuş.
from abroad, such
Ya,
as cotton or polyester,
polyesterdir.
has gone up by
%35 ile
35 to
45
40%.
arası gidiyor yani şu anda.
In addition to raw materials, Turkish exports need imported machines and sophisticated technology that are becoming more costly. The other Achilles heel of the local economy is that it's energy dependent. Prices at the gas pump are already soaring.
We saw 3 hikes in the last week. In all, it's about 30% more expensive, and we heard another bump is expected next week.
Evde tabii doğalgazımızı az açıyoruz. Yakamıyoruz, ısınamıyoruz.
We lowered the thermostat at home. We're doing everything to limit expenses.
President Erdogan built his poll ratings on strong economic results, and the present situation could have political consequences. The next elections are scheduled for June 2023.
Quick look at what's happening on the markets for you next. European shares bouncing back today after the slump that we saw on Tuesday. Investors have taken fright in recent days over the Omicron variant and fears of rising inflation. This lunchtime, though, we're seeing gains across London, Paris and Frankfurt.
Finally, from you, Tel Aviv has for the first time been ranked as the world's most expensive city. Why is that?
Hard to believe, isn't it? Well, it has, according to this survey from the Economist Intelligence Unit, which they published every year, it says the Israeli city topped the rankings because of the strength of the currency against the dollar, which is how they calculate these prices, as well as the price increases that have been seen for groceries and transport there. Paris and Singapore coming in joint second. Perhaps an unhappy first for residents of Tel Aviv if they find themselves living in the world's most expensive city.
True. I was surprised by Paris, though, as well. Having lived in several of these cities, I do not find Paris to be as expensive as New York or Tokyo. I will say that. Stephen Carroll from our business desk, thank you so much for that update.